Hi. What was that? What happened to my voice? Hi. I have a lot to do, so why not bring you with me? Let's do some plant chores today. I have a bunch of plants to repot into pond, and so I decided to film it, I don't know, and talk about stuff like Hoya myths. Quick shout out to Soltech Solutions. I am so excited right now because I know that I alluded to it in a previous video. I am building a wall. Not that kind of wall. A good vibes wall. I contacted Soltech to ask them if they wanted to collaborate with me. Because I'll tell you what, I love the Highland track light system that I have back here. And then, as a gift, they also gave me the Vita lamp. What is it called? Yeah, the Vita bulb. Vita bulb. That's what it's called. I'm being a really, really good affiliate of Soltech Solutions right now. They gave me the whole kit and caboodle. Well, the lampshade is from IKEA, called Austin's Pick on their website. And it comes with the Vita bulb and a pendant light situation. And doesn't it look nice? It's a little bright, I think, on camera, but it looks really nice. It highlights that beautiful orchid. Bit of an impulse buy. It's like $7. And I was like, it's a beautiful color. I'm getting sidetracked. I just wanted to say thank you to Soltech Solutions. They didn't sponsor this video. They will sponsor an upcoming video. I was just really excited because I'm putting another Highland track light system in. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, if you're ever thinking about Soltech Solutions, you can use the code Betsy15. You can get 15% off any purchase on their website. Nice little discount for you. That's all I wanted to say. Okay. I'm kind of, I'm in my casuals today because I'll tell you what. I didn't make a video last week, and I do apologize for that, but I have been so busy. But I figured today it could be nice to just do a casual repot. Today I'm repotting a bunch of Hoyas. I received them on the 21st, so about 2 weeks ago I received them, and I cut them up and put them in little cups of perlite. Normally I will just root directly in pond. This is like a homemade pond mix that I have. So I received these on the 21st, and they did not arrive in very good condition. They shipped in from Southeast Asia. That whole process was really quick, but customs took like an extra day for some reason, which unfortunately was a Friday. So they ended up being held until the following Monday. So all weekend they sat in a dark box in a warehouse somewhere, and the temperature dropped just before they shipped. And so they sat in a cold warehouse for 2 days, and I think that's why they didn't arrive in the best condition. And that's the risk that you take. I ordered a second shipment of Hoyas since then from another vendor, and it didn't get held over the weekend. So it arrived much faster, and those Hoyas look great. This is Hoya Archibaldana alba marginata. This is a Hoya that Miro from Basic Plants convinced me to get because he wants it. So that's why I have this one. But it is beautiful. When they arrived, I was like, I don't really want to screw around. I do want to put them in pond, but who knows, maybe some of these will not want to root in pond, because I've had trouble rooting Peninsularis in pond. And I was just like, you never know. Once in a while, you get a Hoya that doesn't like to root in pond. I don't know why. Most of them root very well and very quickly in pond. But I just didn't want to take any chances because they arrived in really poor condition. And I was like, I know that like 100% of the time, Hoyas root in perlite. And I always reuse the perlite. So I'm gonna collect it in this because I just boil it for like 10 minutes and then I dry it out and I reuse the perlite. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Perlite, anyway. I'm pretty bad about everything else. I'm trying to do better. I need to get a reverse osmosis system, and I am shopping for one because I want to stop using plastic bottles, and I have to use distilled water a lot for the humidifiers in my grow tents and things like that. I have to buy distilled water, and I'm using so much plastic, and it makes me feel like a monster. So I'm just shifting these to pond because I think that they have started to root. Next time, however, I will be rooting them directly in pond because this is just a lot of extra work that I don't need, you know? It's like a lot of Hoyas. The other day I imported 122 plants, and with this order I think I had, I'm so sorry about my voice. With this order I think I had 30, around 30. So it's a lot of extra work that I just don't need. He's starting to put out like a root at the bottom. No, he's putting out some roots. He's putting out some roots. A lot of people don't know that when you import Hoyas, they will dip them in a really strong insecticide. I forget what it's called. It starts with an I. That is brutal on the roots. So when you import, it's not just like you receive plants, they're beautiful, you can pot them up and you are adding to your collection. No. It's a whole process, especially if they take 8 to 10 days to reach you. In my experience, every single time, I need to cut off the roots completely and reroot the plants entirely. It was 9 hours of work. I was so exhausted yesterday, I couldn't think. I can never work. This is why I never do repotting videos. Because I can never do two things at once. I have my own little pond mix here. So that is lava rock, pumice, and zeolite. I use 2 parts lava rock, 2 parts pumice, 1 part zeolite. Actually, this is the first time I've ever used this. I always use the Choose a Pond straight out of the bag. Oh, I hope I don't kill all these plants. Oh yeah, speaking of the plants arriving in really bad condition, this was just to show you, this is the risk that you take. This was Hoya Michelle Splash. It had like 6 or 7 leaves and they all fell off. This one didn't like the trip. It really disliked that journey and it's completely rotted. But it's okay, like I have Hoya Michelle Splash in my collection, so it's not a big deal. Here I have Hoya Larissa. I know I have a couple of these. This is a very, very pretty Hoya. None of these are gonna be particularly beautiful specimens of these plants since, like I said, they arrived in bad condition. Oh no, they're starting to root a little bit. It hasn't been warm enough because the temperature dropped. Wow, I'm very disappointed by it. Okay, she's putting out roots. She's putting out roots, folks. I wish that I didn't just put a pile of perlite right in the center of my table like a jackass. Why did I do that? I have a bowl here for the perlite and I just put it in the center of my table. I gathered you here today to talk about some Hoya myths that I think are dumb, that we should stop spreading, and I often see them in Facebook groups. And one of them is this myth that I said I would address at some point in my, I almost said career. That's one of the saddest things that I've uttered. That Hoyas like to be root bound. This is something that people love to say. They love to say it. What does it mean? No, there's not a plant in the world that loves to be root bound. Plants don't grow in pots naturally, and why would they ever want their roots to be restricted? So first of all, it just like logically doesn't make sense to me. But the other issue is that people think that Hoyas like to be root bound because it encourages blooming or growth. No, it does not. No, it doesn't. It just doesn't. It's an anecdotal thing that people share. Well, it blooms a lot because it's root bound. No, it didn't bloom a lot because it was root bound. Probably got a lot of light. All I want to say is that none of the Hoyas in my collection are root bound, and many of them are in some stage of bloom. And so I could argue the exact opposite. I could say, oh, if you want to bloom your Hoyas, you need to make sure that they're never root bound. Oh my God, I cannot lose that label. You need to make sure that they're never root bound. That's the argument that I could make because I have so many. It makes me crazy, this thing that people say, and it just means absolutely nothing. Man, none of these are rooting, actually. This is Finlaysone Sukirin. I should have shown it while it was still in the, I'll show it when I put it in pond. I was really hoping that these would actually have roots, and they don't, and it's been 2 weeks, and they should. And I think it's because they're not warm enough. Here, okay, this is Hoya Sukirin. It's got big leaves, and I have a lot of this plant because they only had it in large, and I was like, well, I need it. So I got a really large plant, and it's really large. I didn't realize the leaves would be so massive. Oh, I don't want to lose those labels. So anyway, all I'm saying is stop saying that. Stop saying that. Stop believing it, stop saying it. It's not true. The next one that frustrates me is people saying that Hoyas need to mature in order to bloom. No, they don't. There might be a few out there that don't bloom for a long time. I really don't know, because most of the plants in my collection that are blooming right now are really small, like they're cuttings. They're literally cuttings that have just rooted and they've put out peduncles and they are already, they have bloomed or they are blooming right now. Like my Hoya cultivar L is blooming. I'll bring it over here in a minute. No, they don't need to be mature. You know what Hoyas need? They need light. They need a lot of light to bloom. So even if you have small baby Hoyas, little cuttings, if you put them in a situation where they're getting a lot of light, they will develop peduncles really fast and they will bloom. All I have to do is put a plant in one of my grow tents under the intense light. It'll start putting out peduncles within a month. Even if it's one of my mature plants that doesn't have peduncles and hasn't for a long time, it will develop peduncles very quickly after I put it under the high light conditions of my grow tent. And high humidity helps as well. But I think it's mostly the light. This is Hoya L. Oops, it's a hybrid. Look at those cute little flowers, huh? They're pink. I don't remember what it's a mix of. I know it's a Lacanosa mix, but I don't remember what the exact cross is. Sorry. I have actually acquired more Lacanosa since the last video where I said I have like 13 different Lacanosa. Oh, I have more now. I have more. But as you can see, this is a cutting that rooted like a week ago. It actually started putting out the bloom before it was even rooted in this cup. So they really just need light. This, I didn't want to show it because it's in such terrible condition. This is Hoya species Saba, right? Oh no, this is Yuna. What? This is Yuna? No, that's Yuna. This is Saba. Yep, there it is. Okay. I know my Hoyas. This is Hoya species Saba. And I mean, it's just, it arrived in the absolute worst condition. It looks like garbage. I'm heartbroken about how some of these look. It is so unfortunate. How are you gonna sell such ugly looking Hoyas? I gotta have like an ugly Hoya sale. Something like that. Like discounted Hoyas because they're ugly. They will produce beautiful leaves, but right now they're ugly. And if you want an ugly Hoya, give me some ugly Hoya love. Another thing, and this is something that I got wrong. I think in probably my like main Hoya care video that I made years ago, I say that Hoyas want really bright but indirect light. That's what a lot of people think, that Hoyas want really bright light and that they'll thrive in that, but it can't be direct sun. It has to be indirect light. And you know, the thing about being wrong is that it feels exactly like being right until you realize it. So I was wrong. And I realized that there are Hoyas, many Hoyas, that will thrive in direct sun. Some of them I put out on the patio when it was warmer. We had like 10 days of really beautiful, sunny, warm weather. And I was putting a bunch of Hoyas out on the patio every single day and then bringing them in at night. Like Memoria, Carnosa, Matilde, Jennifer, Affinity Walliniana. I don't remember the ascension number on that. Affinity Bertonia variegata, Shuka. I was even putting Lobi out there. Lobi was doing great. They were doing great in hours of direct sun. Obscura is another one that you can put in direct sun. There are a lot of Hoyas that will do great and, in fact, will put out peduncles and bloom much faster. Because in their natural habitat, Hoyas are growing in the tops of trees. And that's where they're blooming. And it's because that's a space with a lot of light. They're getting all that sunlight up there. It's AH0734. Isn't that pretty? Isn't that an awesome leaf? Oh, that is a beautiful Hoya. It's just gorgeous. I love it. Oh, this is Hoya AH098. Looks like garbage, but I swear it's a beautiful Hoya. It's a really beautiful Hoya when it's not in terrible condition. It's a shame that all of these arrived looking like they got run over by a truck. Oh, this is another Larissa. This is just a gorgeous plant. I know that Miro is trying to get a hold of this one as well. So I'll probably send one of these cuttings to him. I was trying to think of another Hoya myth. You know, people are afraid to cut their Hoyas. They're afraid to trim them. I think one of the best things that you can do if you really like a full and bushy plant, and I know I've made a video about this before, but cut them, reroot those cuttings, and then repot them in the same pot with the mother plant, or create another, you know, second, whatever you want to do. But you can create a more full and bushy looking plant that way, just by putting a bunch of cuttings in the same pot. But a lot of people are worried about cutting the Hoyas because if you cut off stems that have peduncles, they're afraid that the plant will never produce peduncles again, it'll never bloom again. It's true that Hoyas always bloom from the same peduncle. Never take the peduncles off your Hoya. After it's done blooming, you can kind of knock off the dead flowers. Usually they fall off naturally, but you can knock them off. But you never want to knock off the spur, like the actual thing that the flowers are coming out of, because it will bloom again from the same exact spot. But you can cut them and they will produce new peduncles in the future. And normally if you take a cutting that has a peduncle on it, the peduncle will stay. Sometimes it will lose the peduncle due to stress. You're not like stopping your Hoya from blooming in the future. As long as you give it a lot of bright light, it will always develop more peduncles in the future. So you can always cut them. I mean, if we didn't cut Hoyas, nobody would have Hoyas. This is Sigillatus. Sigillatus, oh, that one lost all of its leaves, huh? This is Sigillatus silver. This one was hard to get. I'll be honest with you, this was very difficult to obtain. This was, I think, the most expensive Hoya that I purchased. It's a hard one to get. It's very cool. It did not like traveling. I'm actually worried right now about, I keep losing these tags. Oh, it's him. Larissa needs her tag. Always keep tags in your Hoyas. You will forget which ones you have. Sigillatus did not like the commute. Yeah, I lost a bunch of leaves. That's life. So let's hope that it will continue to root and grow and prosper. Those are all the myths that I can think of right now. I mean, I know that there are some misconceptions about watering. Did I get that in my tea? No. Nice and cold. Who am I talking to right now? 1025. This is AH 1025. Again, it looks much better when it is not a distressed plant. We'll get there eventually, little buddy, don't worry. Some people believe that they don't need to be watered very frequently, and the problem with that is that you can get dry rot. And dry rot is when you water your plant a little too infrequently. So when you let the potting mix dry out a little too long, the roots begin to dry out and then they start to kind of die away a bit. And then you water the plant and it's too much potting mix, too much water. The roots can't absorb it. They begin to rot because it's like overwatered at that point. Some people think that they just don't need a lot of water because they're some kind of succulent, but it's not the case at all. I don't let any of my Hoyas dry out. Some Hoyas do like a little bit more moisture. Linearis, Serpens, or Tengchongensis. I have those too. They need a bit more of a dense mix. I was too afraid to put, I know that Miro from Betsy Plants is rooting his Tengchongensis in pon, and I was like, that's brave. I don't think I would root that in pon. Because it's like a moisture lover, and I don't think I can water pon enough to keep a plant like that. And I don't think he can either. I'm telling you, Miro, you are not going to be able to keep up with the watering on that plant if you keep it in pon. I know your watering habits, okay? I know your watering habits. I don't think you can keep up. Side note, this is Carrie Fuzzy Leaves. I ordered it as Carrie Fuzzy Leaves. You know what I thought? I thought it would have fuzzy leaves. No, this is not a pubescent Hoya. Not at all. I received it and was like, oh, it must be a mix-up. Like they marked it as fuzzy leaves. It's not fuzzy. I really thought it was pubescent. I thought that when you touched it, it would feel fuzzy. I looked at it under a microscope like, where is the fuzzy? I don't understand. I'm touching it, I ain't feeling it. Maybe it's just me. Maybe my fingers, I don't know. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. How's it go? Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't Fuzzy Wuzzy. Same situation with Hoya Carey, okay? And I googled it and I could not find any photos of this plant that looked pubescent.
These pictures should match.
What? Did you hear that? It just said these pictures should match. What's going on my phone? I haven't touched my phone in a long time. Ever since I got Alexa as a gift from somebody, I have an Amazon wish list, and somebody who watched my channel Heavens to Betsy bought me an Alexa Dot. Ever since I introduced the Alexa Dot into my home, no matter how many times I say, okay Google, that has not been happening. Google has been ignoring me, giving me the cold shoulder, straight up mad at me. I know what else I can show you before I peace out. And it's my little Hoya seedlings. Let me get the Hoya whence they came first. This is Hoya CSG 18021. I bought this from Camilla. She's the chairwoman, the president of the Swedish Hoya Society. Very nice woman. I met her in Stockholm a few years back. In 2019, I went to Stockholm to go to Nordiska Trädgårdar. I'm not saying it very well because I don't speak Swedish. It's this massive exposition for plants, and the Swedish Hoya Society always sets up a booth, and multiple people who are members sell cuttings of Hoyas. So you go and there's just these big bins, like bigger than this bin, these big bins with plastic baggies full of cuttings, and you could just go throw them. So this is Hoya CSG, those are her initials. I don't know how to say either of her surnames, so I'm not gonna try. CSG 18021, I think 18 indicates the year that she must have planted the seedlings. So this came from her Hoya Sunrise. An insect cross-pollinated something with her Hoya Sunrise plant, and seed pods developed. She planted the seeds, and this is one of the seedlings, and it grew. Now she has like a whole plant. And I saw a photo of it, and the leaves sun stress beautifully. And I just love anything that resembles remotely Lacanosa, and Sunrise is a cross between something else and a Lacanosa. And I was like, I need it. I absolutely need it. So I bought this from her, and about a week and a half or 2 weeks after it arrived, I took it out of its propagation jar, and I realized it was developing a seed pod, and I've never seen a seed pod, and I was like, what? This comes from the cross between Hoya Sunrise and an unknown father, and then the seed pod on this one is CSG 18021 and an unknown father, because she said she didn't hand pollinate it, so it must have been pollinated by an insect or something again. And it could be self-pollinated. I don't know, we'll find out, but I'll show you the seedlings. I wanted to make a video about the seed pod and my whole process for planting the seeds, but it happened all of a sudden. Like I had been prepared, you know, I was like, oh, it could pop any day. I should really make my next video about this plant. And then the other day I pulled it out of my tent so that I could look at it under the microscope, because I wanted to show Adam, Not Dude, on YouTube and on Instagram. You can find him. And he and I was sharing some microscopic footage of my plants with him. And so I was going to look at the seed pod under the microscope. And so I took the pantyhose, because you have to wrap the seed pod in something sheer, like pantyhose, because once it pops, the seeds go everywhere, and they're like dandelion seeds. They'll just blow everywhere, and you can lose them very easily. So I took the pantyhose off to look at it under the microscope, and I realized I had seeds on my hand. I was like, oh no! And it was like 8:30, and like I was getting ready to go to bed. I was very tired, and I was like, well, I guess I'm planting seeds tonight. So I planted them, and I didn't get to make a video about it, but I am in the midst of trying to hand pollinate Hoya. Like, I'm trying to learn. It's very difficult to hand pollinate Hoyas. It's really hard. Hoya fungi and Hoya carnosa, like that type of flower, that structure and that size, it's a bit easier. But when it comes to like Lacanosa, they are so tiny, and you have to get in there with like the tiniest instrument that you can possibly imagine. Like bee legs seem too big to me. And you have to get in there and you have to take out the plainia from the stigmatic chamber, and then you have to go to another Hoya and get the plainia out of that one, and then put it into, it's really hard to achieve. So I'm trying to learn, because I know it's possible, but it's really hard to learn. And hopefully I can eventually make a video about hand-pollinated Hoyas. Let me know if there's anything that you want me to talk about in the future. Because I think I'm going to be doing a lot of repotting videos. I just want to thank you so much for watching. If you want to support my channel, my work, my kitty cats, you can join my Patreon community where I post alternate content. Or if you're not ready for that kind of commitment, you can always buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/betssybegonia. And I want to thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Please just leave a comment down below saying hello. It'll make my day. I hope you have a really wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Time to say thank you to all of the people who support me, my hoyamygosh patrons, Anthony Rankin, Carolyn Green, Christina Greengrass, and Frederick Bowman, my Begonia buddies, Adam Banzoff, Casey Smirnotopoulos, Charlie, Krabby Cat, Darcy Levish, Aramio, Fenner Lamb, Grams Loves Plants, Hannah Tranquil, Haley O'Donnell, Jazz and Jamie, Jordan, Kayla Mann, Kristen Moore, Leah A, Michelle Sadlowski, Robin L. Jennings, Sherry Kumar, Tisha McCann, Ula Umlaut, and Wendy Foreman, and my Balthos pals, Abby Estes, Amanda, Anonymous Aardvark, Ashley Eagle, Brianna Phillips, Cece, Christina Wong, Claire Lynn, Elizabeth Mary, Elizabeth Valasquez, Emily Cephalou, Emma Greenwood, Gracie, James Kopp, Karen, Cassandra Lewis, Kayla Vavra, Kelly Ash, Kelly Westover, Carrie Ponce, Lexi Haynes, Lydia, Lilith Moon, Linda Thea, Lisa Glandon, Natalie Kenda, Nicholas Curtis, Olga, Plant Girl 50 Brie, Plantalenia, Samantha, Shelley Everett, Sophia, Steve A, Tina Halberg, Vertigrous Dreams, Wanyang Zhang, and Zen Simmer. Thank you guys so very much. I'll see you on Patreon.